1942, I was recruited by Bayard Rustin, Philip Randolph's deputy. Bayard was the genius of all the marches on Washington. There were 3 of them. Only one that anybody knows about in 1963, but the first one was in 1942, and it was a threatened march on Washington to protest racial discrimination in defense plants, because all of the defense plants were hanging out signs saying, in effect, whites only. And the threat in the beginning of World War II and fighting the Nazis, the idea that thousands of black people would march on Washington over this kind of racial discrimination was not tolerable, and it produced almost immediately FDR's executive order banning discrimination in defense plant employment and triggering a great migration from the busted sharecropper system in the South up to the North for jobs. That was my first formal involvement, and I went on to a lot more of that over the next couple of years. Long before I thought about medicine or began medical school. And the struggle in medical school for me was, how did I fuse that set of purposes with training to be a doctor? Because they didn't seem to be connected. And one day, standing on the steps of the medical school, even though it was a very good, very innovative, we'll treat you like grown-up graduate people, integrated curriculum medical school, it was still the Flexner model, better done. And standing on the steps of the medical school, I could see the teaching hospital, our universe, and beyond that, the city of Cleveland. And it occurred to me that out there in Cleveland, who got sick and who didn't, and what they got sick with, and what happened to them then, were all not just biological phenomena, they were social, economic, political, and racial phenomena. And then I knew what I wanted to do. Except I didn't know if it was real. I ran to the literature, and the social medicine literature, what it passed for at that time, was all touchy-feely. It was just an attitude you had. It wasn't anything you did. And the one place where it seemed to me something was doing something about it and implementing this and creating the institutions to do something about it was, of all places, in apartheid South Africa, where Sidney Clark and his colleagues were inventing community-oriented primary care and the modern community health center. And John Grant, mentioned today from the Rockefeller Foundation, who started Barefoot Doctors in China and helped fund Sidney Clark, paid for a Rockefeller Foundation scholarship for me to go and study with the Clarks and work in the community health centers for almost 5 months of my senior year in medical school. So he has been one of the bridge people. And I was going to do global health in South Africa, Latin America, East Asia, or wherever, until in 1964 with the Medical Committee for Human Rights, which we had organized as about 20 of us as the medical arm of the civil rights movement. That brought me to Mississippi for Freedom Summer, and one look around and I realized I didn't have to go to Africa or Latin America or Southeast Asia. We had it all here.